Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Well, it's all over here in Australia. The federal election has been run and lost. And weirdly enough, you could see a couple of months ago where things were going wrong. It was the coalition were out there. They were in the lead. It seemed like Peter Dutton was leading a group, was leading his party to a victory because he was standing for something. The country needed to change. The coalition was saying, yep, it needs to change. We know how it needs to change, and we are going to stand for that change. We're going to stand in the gap. We're going to take Australia to where it needs to go. And then all of a sudden, it's like Peter Dutton. I'm going to put this squarely on Peter Dutton. It's like he completely changed. He lost his courage, is what I would say. Completely lost his courage. He went from someone who stood up for something, someone who stood against everything that Albanese stood against it. He was the opposite kind of a man. You look at Dutton and thought, okay, he is a man. He is a leader, as opposed to what we have. But what's happened? I don't know why, but you saw when it changed, it's like they lost the courage to stand for values, stand for anything that might be framed as having some kind of connection to Trump. For some weird reason, we couldn't be a nation that stands and thinks for ourselves. They couldn't be a party that stands and thinks for themselves. No, everything came back to Trump. And I think Trump is good for America. I think the things that he's doing in America are good for America. And there's some things he's doing in America, he's done in America, I think we need here. Here in Australia, we just have leaders who just seem to get blown around in the wind. It's the second there is any pushback, the second anyone stands up and says something that they don't, it just seemed to scare everyone, seemed to scare Peter Dutton. Now, I'd expect that kind of leadership from Albanese. I wasn't expecting it from Dutton, from the Liberals. But let's check it out. I'm going to read. I don't normally read a lot of Andrew Bolt stuff. We're going to read out some of what he said here. So he says the coalition, never strong in telling us what it was for. This was the big issue. Suddenly lost its guts to fight for what few beliefs it still held. I'm not just talking about its disastrous decision to promise to repeal Labor's latest tiny tax cuts. How could any Liberal party promise higher taxes? The rot went far deeper, and dates from when Donald Trump took over as president and started to smash the furniture. The polls show the collapse of coalition support started right there. That's because they couldn't frame a decent narrative. People were scared because people didn't understand what Trump was doing, and they were believing all the lies that were coming out from our leftist media. But no one could stand up and say the truth and say, well, this is what's actually happening. It's not going to be that bad for Australia. And we actually need to take a leaf out of their book and change the way we're going as well. But no one was able to stand up. Everyone was too scared to say things like that. So Labor jumped on it fast, running ads claiming opposition leader Peter Dutton was a mini Trump, even lying that Dutton is going to back Trump over Australia. I didn't understand. I think I saw something about that, and I didn't understand how anyone could believe it. Anyway, but as so often in this campaign, the coalition looked totally flat-footed and without an answer. It never attacked Trump personally to prove that Dutton was his own man. See, I don't think they needed to attack Trump. They just need to show that Dutton was his own person. And I think the US, Trump would have understood what was going on. And not even when Trump hit Australia with tariffs. And let's be realistic. The tariffs for Australia aren't, they're fairly negligible, to be honest. Worse, Dutton seemed to be spooked out of doing what had worked for him all along, as if terrified of seeming as tough as, well, Trump. So Dutton had actually got the coalition into a winning lead by smashing Labor, not just on the cost of living crisis, but also on conservative issues. This is what Australians wanted. We wanted someone to lead with conservative issues, to point out these things are wrong. This is not the way we need to go. We need to go in a different direction. And he was doing that for a small amount of time. Well, just recent, but he had been doing that for years. It worked for him. Labor disasters like importing 1 million migrants in just 2 years. If you don't think that's caused problems, look at all the homeless we have. Look at the unfathomable high prices in housing and rentals. It's ridiculous. This has been caused by 1 million migrants in just 2 years. This isn't helping Australia. What else have they done? So, 1 million migrants, stripping our military of weaponry, but we'll go and send stuff over to Ukraine when we can't even help our own guys here. Can't even make sure that their weapons are up to date and we have enough. Failing to deport foreign criminals, too scared to do that. Kowtowing to China's dictatorship, pandering to Muslim radicals. This is what Labor's all about. This is what we voted to have more of. Or flying of 3 flags, and above all, trying to divide us by race with an Aboriginal-only voice to Parliament. I don't agree with the voice to Parliament stuff at all. However, I don't think it's above all. I think the pandering to Muslim radicals and the kowtowing to China's dictatorship and the 1 million migrants in 2 years, I think they're the 3 bigger kickers. They're the 3 things that would really divide the country and pull us apart. The Liberals had even savaged Labor's catastrophic green schemes and launched its plan for 7 nuclear power stations and was winning. This was a couple of months ago. We were talking about nuclear energy. It seemed like people were maybe coming around thinking, okay, this mightn't be too bad. I, for one, think we need to go down the path of nuclear energy. And green, so-called green energy, it's a load of rubbish. It takes it takes about 10 minutes to look into so-called renewable green energy to come to the conclusion that it is not so renewable, it is not so green, it's not good for the environment, and it does nothing but drive up costs for the everyday citizen. Okay, so the coalition had fought to a shock lead in the polls and then stopped. This is exactly what happened. You could see it. Starting from January, the coalition rolled itself in a ball. It refused to fight the culture wars that terrifying many Liberals. It dodged mentioning China, hid its defence policy until the last minute, and barely criticised Labor's catastrophic green energy policies. Even last week, when Spain and Portugal were totally blacked out by relying too much on fickle wind and solar power. This is what's going to happen in Australia. We've got so much coal, we've got so much gas, and yet we're going to end up in blackouts and brownouts because fools who are in power keep insisting that we should go along the lines of green, what they call green energy, renewable energy. But, this is what we voted for. The coalition even hid its most effective communicators, Jacinta Price, Barnaby Joyce, and defence spokesman Andrew Hastie, as if frightened by what they may say. We should have had Jacinta Price out there talking it up, talking against the voice issues, speaking out about what she knows firsthand, and yet, hidden. Barnaby Joyce, let's see, I'm not a fan of Barnaby Joyce at all, but at least he's not afraid to speak on the actual issues. Energy spokesman Ted O'Brien was also sidelined, even though he was best equipped to fight Labor's most devastating lie, that the coalition's promised nuclear reactors would cost a totally bogus $600 billion, and the coalition had secret plans to slash Medicare to pay for them. Dutton instead presented an endless laundry list of promises, mostly handouts, and so unideological that voters would have lost track of which side was promising what. Missing was the coalition's big story, the values that tied those promises together. The coalition's slogan was back on track, but which track to where? So here we are, back with the government that promises to spend more than we can afford. And that's what Labor's all about. And that's what the Albanese government has been all about. We are in so much debt, and yet I still can't I can't believe it. You can see the writing on the wall. So they've promised to spend more than we can afford, build a green electricity system that won't work. And when we're sitting there in blackouts and brownouts, all you clowns in the city, or anyone, if you voted for these people, you can look in the mirror when you're in the dark, if you can see yourself, and say, well, this was my fault. Bind businesses with more green tape that will choke investment and splash out handouts to punish the prudent. That's what the Albanese Labor government's Penny Wong government is all about. Buying votes by giving handouts to people who don't work for it, who don't deserve it, who rip off the system, bringing in more immigration. My prediction is that immigration will continue to go up, even though it's not sustainable now. Housing will continue to get worse. The homeless crisis will continue to get worse. We're going to get further and further into debt, and we're going to end up with blackouts across the nation because we have leaders, I use that term loosely, we have people who are in charge who have fed us a list of lies, and for some reason, Australians have gone along with those lies, believed those lies, allowed those lies to take root, and then we're all going to be, and then these people are going to be wondering what's gone wrong when they've got no power in a country that should never, never have issues with power, considering the amount of natural resources we have. But this is what happens. Mark my words, this is what happens when you have a nation that turns its back on God. I don't care whether you believe in God or the Bible or not. When you have a nation that turns its back on God and embraces radical demonic ideology, this is what happens. This is what we get. Feckless and useless leaders. This is all my opinion. So, don't be offended. This is just my opinion. We're all going to live with this. So let's see what happens. My name's Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's going